Hello everyone and welcome back to theCUBE's live coverage of the Snowflake Summit 2026 here at the Moscone Center in San Francisco. I'm your host, Rebecca Knight, alongside Dave Vellante, the co-founder of theCUBE.
It's still bumping.
It is, day 3, but the energy is still high, indeed. I would like to welcome our next guest to the show. We have Elena Fersman, VP, Head of AI Innovation and Incubation at Ericsson. Welcome, Elena.
Thank you.
And of course, Christian Kleinerman, EVP of Product at Snowflake. Welcome, Christian.
So happy to be here again with you guys.
Yeah.
CoCo.
The answer is CoCo. CoCo. What's the question?
So, Elena, you have a very cool title, Head of AI Innovation and Incubation. You've been working with Snowflake for a couple of years now. Talk a little bit about how you're using AI today, because what started as a data platform clearly became something a lot bigger.
Absolutely, and we're evolving it all the time. So, at Ericsson we have a lot of data, obviously. Internal data that we have in our enterprise operations, HR, finance data, and then we have the services data. So the internal Ericsson data that we collect, the know-how of managing all our customers, essentially. And this is a massive amount of data. That's all around the world. And then the third type of data, I would say, that's the product data. That's something that we see in the product, and that's something that's flowing from our customers. So these 3 types. We started with the first type. We started with our internal operations, and we started to use Snowflake products in that, just to have unified access, to break the silos, and to apply more smart algorithms.
So lots of announcements this week, obviously. There'll be 2 big ones, obviously, CoWork and CoCo. You know, I think people here understand it, but for the audience who may not understand it, Christian, why do we need both? What's the persona that uses each?
Yeah, so maybe I'll rewind one step before the 2 of those, which is our goal at Snowflake is help organizations leverage AI, but with the context of their enterprise, which is data and metadata, and most important, with a peace of mind that security, compliance, all of that is taken care of.
Yeah.
That's the overarching aspiration and goal for us. And then you say the way different people leverage AI varies depending on whether you're a technical user or whether you're a non-technical user, a business user. And that's where we're separated a little bit our product offerings. There's a lot of common infrastructure, like CoCo and CoWork, lots of commonalities and same foundation. But for the technical user, which is the traditional Snowflake user, CoCo is the artillery. The cavalry comes and helps you do anything you wanted to do with data management. Massive productivity boost. But you have to be a technical user. You have to know if a query shows some table, is that correct? If the answers are there, you have some level of knowledge and expertise about what's going on. Flip over to the non-technical user, the business user, which just wants to get things done. Just wants to ask questions about the data or create even a presentation, and if the presentation has a chart, those numbers better be right. That is where CoWork comes in. So common foundation, common aspiration on data and AI, but one focus on business users, the other one focus on technical users.
So Elena, when you hear Christian say their mission helping organizations like yours use AI, we've been testing this all week, whereas there was this edict from the CEOs, thou shalt get AI native, right? And people looked around and said, okay, how do we do that? And now we're seeing this personal AI usage boom and personal productivity boom. But part of your role has to make sure that you're not just creating islands of intelligence. So, but yet at the same time, you want to let the personal experience bloom.
Yeah.
How do you think about that? How do you both accelerate that, but at the same time make sure that the organization just doesn't replicate the silos of the past?
Yeah, right, and it's even more complex than personal experience that we are kind of tend to duplicate as humans. There's also different customer requirements, and we are kind of in the middle as a vendor, aggregating all the different customer requirements, and then customers may have different requirements on the platform choice, on the data format choice, and so on. So that's very important to have that unified access to the tools. And I mean, at Ericsson, we've been on this AIification of portfolio journey for maybe 16, 17 years. And you can imagine, it's been like, transforming a big 150 years old company radio company, product company, into AI native, that's a very long and difficult journey.
Yes.
So I think this, just having it like an AI native, what it means is that first of all, you need to have full data observability, right? So you only have the very good data, if you have your very good data exposed, then you can apply all your beautiful AI algorithms. If you don't have like your data in order, in some kind of unified way, you will never be able to adopt your best AI algorithms. So we've been actually working for many, many years on exposing this data, and of course the islands. I mean, we are not perfect. Of course, the islands of data. So for us, it's extremely important to have this unified access to data, because then you can have the fusion. We can have the customer data. We want to sleep, be able to sleep without being worried about the data governance and access, right?
That value prop resonates, right?
It's amazing, yes, exactly, because
sleeping well, that's
one thing is to make sure our data is safe. But we also manage customer data. That's even more important. So that's even more important for us to be able to sleep well. And we want to be able to have the fusion. We sit on our data, telecom knowledge, but we want to fuse it with the customer data, and that needs to be governed by their governance. So that's how we kind of.
But you say you've been on this journey now, God, almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
Okay, but if I go back that far, it's like Cognos cubes with 3 people who know how to use the system, and I have to put in a request and wait, weeks and weeks for an answer.
Yeah.
To, where you are now.
Amazing, yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. You also point out it's not easy.
It's not easy.
An organization this size, if it's a blank sheet of paper, I'm a startup, okay. So how do you do that? Do you start at the edge, come up with some use cases, and then sort of grow over time? It's very complex.
It's very complex.
So how do you do that?
So we start at the surface. So back in the days,
okay,
I was like, so maybe that's the edge actually. But I have this metaphor that a telecom network is like a human body. It's very easy to measure temperature on the surface. So that's our managed services offerings. It's just there. We are managing like many operators in the world. We are managing so much traffic. That's data that flows in, and you can measure it easily. At the heart, in the radio access network, that's since we were not born digital natives, we were not born AI natives, we had to get this observability of the heart. You can measure, you can have your wearable here measuring how your heart is feeling, but if you have a sensor inside of it, if you have a pacemaker, then you know exactly that your heart is beating as it should, that it will help it. So on this journey, we started at the surface. We started to build in automation of the managed service, and we were working together on our managed service platforms for sure, because it definitely helps for unified data access. But then gradually, you kind of get closer and closer to the heart of the problem. That's the core of the network.
And data is everywhere in this equation.
Revenue, data and compute on that data.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, what we care the most is valuable consumption. It's not just drive consumption, but no, you need to be getting value out of that. That's what drives us and motivates us. Yeah. But I was going to add that even for us, a much younger organization and much smaller, the AI transformation has challenges because the target is not a fixed goalpost. The capabilities of the models, what can you do with AI, is evolving almost on a, I'm going to say weekly, monthly basis. So something we've done that has been quite successful is a weekly show and tell. Who is doing something interesting and novel to share with everybody else, because that's the only way to keep up with people that are discovering new ways and applications of AI and being more productive. And we do it a lot with CoCo and CoWork ourselves, but the use cases, it's fascinating how it keeps evolving.
Well, and the operational model is going to change, but I'm not sure you know exactly what it's going to look like in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So it seems like the new operational model will emerge organically.
Yeah, I still think that we talk about AI and data going hand in hand. Obviously, that's the case, but data foundation will always be there. AI algorithms will change. So if we kind of have this paradigm, okay, the data foundation, back in the days, before the LLM, before the transformers, we were working with ontologies. maybe not the most efficient data structure to traverse and manipulate with the help of an algorithm. I think transformers is a much more flexible, interesting architecture, but that still works. I mean, as long as you kind of expose it, store it and expose it in an efficient way.
So Christian, when you're hearing Elena talk about their journey to AIification and talking about Snowflake's own best practices of sharing weekly, does this map to what you're hearing with other customers? I mean, what are some of the biggest trends you're hearing and the obstacles they're facing?
I think we see the entire spectrum of, maybe the common denominator, everyone is clear, they want to do AI. Some of them are very clear on what that means, others just have a mandate, and like, we need to do AI without knowing what it is. I think very quickly, as organizations try to do more with AI, they quickly go past public data and ChatGPT, they do some document summarization, and then there's like, oh, this thing doesn't know about my organization. All the things that matter to me are not in the knowledge of the AI. And from that perspective, what Elena and team are doing is quite advanced, at least relative to where the broad population of customers are. We love the partnership, we love the alignment, and we get feedback, and that's what we innovate for, to help you be more productive, and back to that, sleep at night is good.
Exactly, it's fantastic, because you want to expose as much as possible, not too much.
Correct.
You want to watch
Correct.
it.
So how specifically are you using Snowflake? What can you share about your Snowflake journey?
So it's on different levels. So we first of all, we started with our enterprise data and use cases. As I said, like HR use cases, financial use cases, we can add AI on top of it, but that's not what we call telecom AI. Telecom AI, what goes into the portfolio. And portfolio is a service and product portfolio. And I can give you an example. So we're striving towards network autonomy. We did have this use case of talk to your network when you kind of interact with the whole network through, human language. And we've experimented with that together with, we use Cortex AI in our kind of experimentation of the talk to your network, when you kind of ask your network how you're feeling, do you predict any kind of degradation in certain area, we are planning a big event somewhere, what would be the root cause and so on. So that's one way, but then of course, network autonomy, full autonomy, that's the goal. So you don't want to talk to it really. You want the network to predict something and react on something. So that's the automation story. An automation story is about, okay, it's just running more smooth and giving you better performance. But what I love actually more is the innovation story, when you kind of make a bigger market. And we have our, for example, Ericsson Intelligent Automation Platform. That's for run automation. That's for opening up the telecom network for developers, so they can actually build our apps for automation of radio access network. And there we have a very good partnership. We are actually partnering up and rolling out this solution to one of our key customers in US. And that will open up the data fusion and unified access to the data for the developers. And developers, they can build, this is the open network for them. They can build on top of that data.
Okay, so you have AI for the network.
Yes.
And then you have the innovation coming from the developers.
Yes.
But then you also have network for AI.
That's correct.
Okay, so you can't just do what? You have to ratchet them up together.
Absolutely,
right?
that's absolutely correct.
The telemetry changes, the whole model is changing.
Exactly.
You have AI factories, you now have hyper-converged edge, you have
Yeah.
compute storage and networking at the edge.
Yes,
right,
yes.
in a converged system, sitting in a radio tower somewhere.
Yes, yes.
The whole topology is changing.
That's correct,
Right.
and in this network array is a fantastic story, because it's all the new market. It's a huge new market, because there are so many new use cases that you need to have. Fast AI, fast reaction time, real-time AI, more deep thinking, all the new use cases that we haven't, maybe even haven't thought about. And then the network needs to be smart enough, agile enough, reliable enough to support all of that. Energy efficiency use cases, like real time. And for that, we need to have that exposure and the guardrails.
Well, and so, we hear the story every time we go to Mobile World Congress, is we 5G, we didn't monetize that well, but now we are going to win this way. So the drivers from the business, how are you guys thinking, beyond connectivity, which is your wheelhouse?
Yeah, exactly.
This is now the new opportunity for firms like Ericsson.
No, absolutely. So the new segments, first of all, of course, enterprise is the new segment. The developer ecosystem, because we have our exposure, and the new services are being built. And then, of course, all the new AI use cases. It can be physical AI, it can be robotic use cases that, for example, need to have real-time characteristics, reliability, and energy efficiency, because you don't want to maybe load a lot of on-device compute. You want to offload. But that offload needs to happen very instantaneously. Any type of real-time translations, any type of new wearables that will be coming out in the market that require mobility and require to have reliable real-time processing. This is all new market.
By the physical AI is super interesting. I know it's a somewhat longer term, but it's starting to percolate. How do you think about that? I think Snowflake's philosophy is we'll attach the data anywhere, and your whole don't move it. But what's your edge story?
No, the whole premise of Snowflake is bring the AI to the data. You talk about petabytes of data.
Yes.
And it's so much easier to bring a compute function, which is what AI inference does, than shipping the petabytes of data up there.
Absolutely.
So we're not doing anything specific on edge, because our entire value prop is bring the compute to the data. That has efficiency benefits, but probably more important, and this goes back to the sleep meme, is you don't have to break the security perimeter. You don't have to break the compliance perimeter.
Yeah.
Because once you made a copy, then you need to keep track of that copy. Think of GDPR deletions. Oh yeah, I had a copy in the edge. Who remembers that? So it's a little bit more challenging. So the way we think about it is, we want the form factor of CoCo and CoWork everywhere, like we have it on mobile devices.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the computation is being pushed to the Snowflake service.
Right, but then you can also move the data and move AI closer to the data.
So Snowflake has, talk to your data. I love that, right? Text to SQL, or What's talk to the network? What is that?
Yeah, so talk to the network is our kind of paradigm, or a kind of a metaphor. It's for real, it's real. So the network has a lot of agents running in it. And you kind of can ask it questions about what are the performance now in this area, in this city, in this country. Do you foresee any bottlenecks going ahead? Next week, what's your performance predictions? Where do you want to have, for example, I don't know, better service? What's at risk? What's the root cause? So but as I said, that's one step towards autonomy.
So when we're hearing what Elena and Ericsson are doing and using Snowflake's AI and data platform and embedding it into their products and shipping it to customers, I mean, that's very validating about Snowflake's overall strategy. What's your advice to enterprise leaders based on what they're doing? What could they take away from what Ericsson is doing?
Yeah, we love what you're doing, and in many ways, we want to enable the experiences that your users need. Like there's no value in me saying, oh, I want your users to accommodate to what I want. No, it's take the technology, take the data, take the power of AI, and put in the form factor that best suits your customers. The common denominator in all of this is a good and unsiloed data strategy. Because if your data was spread in 50 different systems, I don't know where you start.
Then it's an obstacle course. It's doable, but not efficient.
It's doable and inefficient and painful. So unsiloing data, which is what we've been doing, I think, Dave, we've been chatting for, I don't know.
Yeah, many years.
Many years, almost 10. Yeah. That's a big part of it. And then the other piece, which truly matters a lot, is having a very clear security system or security policy. Who should have access to what data? Who should have access to full fidelity data versus maybe partially redacted versus fully redacted? Once you have that, let the data shine, let the data enlighten everyone, and you decide the form factor.
Right.
So Elena, you're obviously a regulated industry, participate, your customers. How do you think about, how would you describe your governance and security strategy?
Yes, so we have Ericsson security framework that we have for many, many years, pre-AI, that we always tested our portfolio for vulnerabilities, obviously. With AI, we have added that dimension, obviously, so we have a trustworthy AI framework. we've been relying or kind of inspired by EU's trustworthy AI principles. But in essence, every new algorithm is being kind of tested through this framework. But then, of course, AI data is even more important because it's like the very different requirements. We have. It's very difficult to unify all of it because every customer will come with their own requirements on the data. So every contract, every batch of data would have different characteristics on it. And then we store it in our, of course, legal framework, and that's being tested. And this is actually integrated with Snowflake products.
Well, and a big part of the market's going to open table formats, and even now you have open source governance frameworks and catalogs. So how does what Elena just said, Christian, inform your roadmap on things like governance catalogs, Horizon, Polaris?
If you look at the time allocation of the product keynote yesterday, I think easily a third, maybe half, was governance and context. Governance in the full sense, security. We talked about business continuity, which matters. Like if there's an outage and the data is not available, your users are left hanging. We talked about agent identity. This data is very important. Is this access Dave and Rebecca or Dave's agents and Rebecca's agents? Very different. Data movement policies, multi-party approvals. All of that is just helping you implement the policy that you think is appropriate for your data. And then context, we talked about both explicit context, which is part of the Horizon catalog, part of Horizon context, a lot of metadata coming from BI tools, from data transformation systems, but also we're leveraging the runtime information that Snowflake has. Like, we know that, Dave is an amazing, analyst, I'm going to call you, and there are others that are running with the analyst role. So if they ask a question, I might use the signals that we've seen you be successful with to answer your questions. Same thing for data scientists, same thing for finance, whatever the function is. That type of information is just about increasing the context that gives you better answers out of the box with Snowflake in the context of the governance.
Well, it's interesting, you mentioned the amount of time you spent in the keynote around these issues. The business resilience caught my attention. I sent a picture to our cyber analyst, and she wrote a blog. Why is Snowflake talking about ransomware?
Oh, I want to see it, by the way.
I'll send it to you. And her point was, this is something that everybody has to think about. It's not just the security company or customers, right? It's everywhere now. So I was pleased to see that.
No, if you think of the doom and gloom scenarios of AI, it's usually agents or AI doing something that it may be correct according to the instructions, but it's not what was intended. A lot of these policies, a lot of this governance is about how do you create bounds so that the unintended behaviors don't happen. That's the purpose.
Exactly. Great note to end on. Christian and Elena, thank you both so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you.
Thank you for having us.
I'm Rebecca Knight for Dave Vellante. Stay tuned for more of theCUBE's live coverage of the Snowflake Summit. You're watching theCUBE, the leader in enterprise tech news and analysis.